You ever think about like those products, those groundbreaking innovations, the ones that just appear and suddenly everything's different?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
today we're doing that. We're going to pull back the curtain on one of the biggest, the iPhone, like really explore how Apple's use of market research has been just fundamental to its whole story, its creation, and how it stayed on top.
Yeah, you hit it. Like, people don't often think about the groundwork behind these huge shifts in tech, you know?
Right. It's all very mysterious.
It is. And for this deep dive, we've got this really insightful report from Cognitive Market Research. And the cool thing is, it's not just the usual speculation. It uses hard market data to show how Apple's been using consumer insights and what they've been doing. It's way more than just, asking, what do people want?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So today it's about understanding how Apple's used this market research, not just to, keep up with trends, but to get ahead of them, even to figure out what we as consumers don't even know we want yet, and then shape the whole smartphone landscape based on that knowledge. We're going to see some surprising links between like early user feedback and those iconic iPhone features we just take for granted now.
For sure.
Okay, so to unpack all this, let's go back to the very beginning.
Okay, yeah, let's rewind back to the mobile phone world before the iPhone really hit it big. Like, what do you remember about using phones back then?
Oh my gosh, it feels like a different century.
Right.
I was always fighting those tiny little keypads, especially
Mhm.
trying to text.
Oh, yeah.
And then they came out with those stylus-based touchscreens, which were supposed to be, the next big thing,
Yeah.
but they were so clunky and imprecise.
Totally. And the Cognitive Market Research report actually highlights how much those limitations were frustrating users. I mean, we all wanted something easier, something that just made sense.
Yeah, something intuitive.
And intuitive, exact.
And what's so interesting is how Apple really zeroed in on that desire for a smoother interaction. Something free from the constraints of small buttons or inaccurate styluses. That's actually a direct quote from the research.
Wow.
And it wasn't just about, making a better phone. It was about a whole different way to interact with mobile tech.
We're thinking bigger picture for
Yeah,
sure.
way bigger.
Yeah.
And they didn't just like throw a dart at a board and hope for the best.
Right.
This report emphasizes that their move to the capacitive multi-touch display, it was anything but random. It was based on detailed user behavior analysis
Yeah.
and in-depth usability studies. They were watching how people struggled with their phones, all the errors, the slowness. I mean, you could practically picture them in a lab somewhere.
Yeah, like really dissecting those moments of friction.
Yeah, I think inefficiency.
Exactly. And that deep dive into user behavior, that's what led to the iPhone's touchscreen. And it wasn't just a tech jump, it was user-centered design in action.
And the impact was huge and immediate.
Mm.
The report even calls out those early gestures like pinch to zoom and swipe navigation. And those weren't just, tweaks. Those completely changed how we move through and interact with stuff on a mobile screen. It felt so natural.
Right, much more direct.
Direct.
And if you zoom out to the bigger picture, you see how this one innovation, which came from understanding those basic user frustrations, it set a whole new standard for the industry. The report even mentions how physical keyboards started to fade away and how competitors had to play catch-up with Apple.
They had no choice.
They had no choice. It's a perfect example of proactive innovation that comes from really getting market research.
Okay, so the touchscreen was massive, but smartphones didn't stop there. What's the next big area where those consumer preferences really shape the iPhone's development?
Well, the report's clear about this. It's the rise of high-quality mobile photography. Smartphones went from being phones to being our main cameras.
Are always with us cameras.
Exactly. And market research through surveys and looking at what people were doing showed a growing demand for things like better low-light performance, sharper images, better video recording. We wanted to capture our lives easily, and the quality had to keep up.
Makes sense. We all became like amateur photographers and videographers. The report even highlights how Apple kept investing in camera tech directly because of this rising user expectation. It was key to standing out.
Yeah, and they went beyond just megapixels. Their approach was all about data. They were studying trends on the platforms where people share photos and videos, using AI and algorithms to understand what people actually found appealing in photos, the lighting, the composition, the detail.
That's wild, using the behavior of millions of users as one giant real-time focus group.
It is pretty amazing. And the report even names features that came out of this night mode smart HDR deep fusion. These aren't just tech terms. They directly address those consumer needs for quality and ease of use in all kinds of shooting situations. The report even says these features let users capture professional quality images effortlessly.
Effortlessly, that's the key.
It is, and if we look at the wider impact, you can see how those camera improvements really cemented the iPhone's rep, especially among mobile photography enthusiasts, as the report calls them.
Mhm.
It's a cycle. Great cameras attract photo-focused users who then want even better cameras.
They push each other forward. Now let's get into something that's like a signature for Apple, their whole ecosystem of devices and services. How did market research play a role in building this interconnected world?
The report really emphasizes that Apple's ecosystem, which is a huge advantage for them, was also heavily influenced by market research. Early studies showed people really wanted seamless integration between devices. We wanted our phones, our computers, our gadgets to all work together without the usual tech hassles.
Yeah, that feeling of everything just syncing up, working smoothly without you having to think about it.
Exactly, and Apple saw that this wasn't just a nice bonus. The report suggests it was crucial for making things easier for users and boosting customer loyalty and brand stickiness. Once you're in the Apple ecosystem, it's harder to even imagine leaving.
It's like they build a comfy little world for you.
They do, and by analyzing how people use multiple devices, Apple saw the need for something like iCloud to automatically sync data across everything. Then looking at user workflows and pain points led to AirPods, Apple Watch, and those super helpful continuity features like handoff, AirDrop, universal clipboard.
Think about starting an email on your Mac and finishing it on your iPhone as you walk out the door, or sharing a file instantly with AirDrop Cognitive Market. Research points out how this smooth experience makes it really hard to switch brands. It's a level of convenience and satisfaction that's tough to beat.
Tough to beat for sure, and that brings us to how Apple stays ahead in such a competitive market. The report really highlights their deep commitment to market research and how much they invest in understanding us what we, the consumers, want and need.
And it's not just about looking at current sales. It's about predicting what we'll want in the future, even before we know it ourselves.
Right, it's about being proactive.
The report says they use data from sales trends, direct customer feedback, and emerging tech to guide their product development.
It's about connecting those dots.
And it's fascinating how this forward-thinking approach turns into actual features. The report uses Face ID and app tracking transparency as examples. These were direct responses to growing concerns about security and privacy. And then there's the constant improvement in health and fitness tracking, because more and more people want to monitor their well-being.
It's about giving people what they want before they even ask for it.
Face ID was a big move, getting rid of the familiar home button completely. And app tracking transparency definitely started a lot of conversations, showing that Apple's willing to put user privacy first, even if it ruffles some feathers. The report concludes this section by saying that this proactive approach ensures that Apple's products not only meet, but exceed user expectations.
That's a strong statement.
It is a strong statement.
It really shows their commitment to staying ahead of the curve.
And you can see it in those consistently high levels of customer loyalty and sales. The report emphasizes how Apple's research-driven approach has built that super strong brand reputation and those high customer satisfaction scores, which leads to a very loyal customer base.
People trust Apple. They know what they're getting.
And you see the excitement every time a new iPhone comes out. It's not just marketing. It's because they consistently deliver products that people love and rely on. The report also points out how the seamless integration of hardware, software, and services keeps people engaged and makes it that much harder to think about switching platforms.
It's a whole ecosystem that works together flawlessly.
So it's not just about one brilliant idea. It's the constant cycle of listening, learning, and innovating based on really understanding the user experience. The report concludes by saying that Apple's ability to innovate based on these consumer insights keeps its devices relevant, desirable, and ahead of industry trends, cementing their position in the market.
And speaking of those brilliant ideas that change everything,
Perfect timing for a fast fact.
lay it on me.
Hit us with it.
Okay, so the report really underlines this point. Apple's market research-driven approach was absolutely key to launching the very first iPhone back in 2007. That revolutionary touchscreen, which got rid of the physical keyboard, wasn't just a lucky break. It came directly from understanding how much people disliked the existing mobile phone interfaces.
Hard to believe that was over a decade ago.
I know, right?
That single innovation, which came from understanding what people really wanted from their mobile devices, as our fast fact reminds us, reshaped the entire smartphone industry and laid the foundation for all the mobile tech we use today.
It's incredible how much impact that one device had.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway?
The Cognitive Market Research Report is very clear. Apple's continued success isn't an accident or just about brilliant design. It comes from a deep and strategic understanding of what you, the consumer, truly want and need, often before you even realize it. They're not just listening, they're actively looking for those unmet needs and finding creative ways to address them, which often surprises and delights us.
It's a fascinating look at how one of the most successful companies in the world innovates. And it shows the power of truly getting your audience.
And this brings up something to think about after we're done. Consider all the other tech in your life that just feels intuitive, from your smart TV interface to your favorite streaming service. How much do you think market research played a role in shaping those experiences? And what does that tell us about the importance of understanding human needs, not just for smartphones, but for all the products and services we use every day?
It's a really good point worth pondering.
It is.
Thanks for exploring this with us today. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.
Bye.